Today we are playing with the movement of the leg bone in the hip socket, leg bone in the pelvis. And we're breaking it down into really the simple basic movements. So our legs move forward and back, side to side, and in rotation. And a lot of our daily movements, a lot of our yoga postures require combinations of those. And sometimes one leg is doing one thing and one leg's doing the other. Actually, even in walking, right? One thing's doing one thing while the other thing's doing another. So we're going to come into some really simple hip movement, and we're going to do it in standing. And all that you need is a block, or this is also, I often do this standing on my stairs. So you can even do this using a stair. Basically what we need is something that's going to elevate one leg and the other can swing freely. Okay, so we're going to step up onto the block or the stair, and you can have the hand on a wall or a banister if you're on the stairs to help support you. Now, one thing I'm going to mention as you step onto that step or block is you want to notice what goes on with the hips right away, because sometimes what happens is this. There's a sort of a dumping or a slumping. It says there's some stability in this, potentially some stability issues in this hip. And so you can try and just press your foot down and bring yourself more up, or you may want to look at some other videos in the series about working the hip on your back, for example, or with strap and block, and then coming back and seeing if that helps with the stabilizing here. All right, so stepping up onto the block. As I say, I have a little bit of support I'll move a little bit farther from the wall. I'll tell you that I often like to have the leg that's free close to the wall, so it's a little bit easier to balance. You don't want to be so far from the wall. Let me use this wall for a second. That you're sort of leaning, leaning. We really want to be supporting ourselves on that standing leg. All right, sorry, let me set myself up again here where I have enough space here on the wall to give me a little bit. Okay, so I'm balancing on my one leg with a little bit of help from the wall, and my other leg is just hanging. Yeah, so just hanging in its socket. And I'm going to give it a little bit of a swing back and forth, so forward and back. What I'm trying to do though is let the swing be just the leg bone and the pelvis. So if I swing it back too far, can you see how my back starts to arch? Because there's just not, the way the leg bone moves in the pelvis, at a certain point, it can't go any farther unless the pelvis moves too. So we're just going to keep that. I'm actually going to bring my hands onto my belly and my low back, because it can be hard. The muscle here is going to move, but that doesn't mean the pelvis is moving. So I'm just sort of playing with that movement, only moving in a range where it's easy and I can breathe and the pelvis isn't moving and nothing else is getting involved. All right, I'm going to let that go. And I'm going to play with moving that leg out and in. So out to the side and back in. And I'm going to turn sideways so you can see me. And use the wall for a little bit of balance. So out and back in. Yeah. Oh, I'm leaning to one side. And I can't fix myself because I'm mirrored. Here we go. Yeah, so out and in. And not so far. Again, at a certain point, your pelvis is going to have to shift because the leg bone just doesn't move that far. So keep it nice and small. And really playing with that movement. Just the leg bone in the hip. Yeah. Okay, let that come down. Oh, yes, the one other thing. So we went forward and back, out and in, and we also have rotation. So the leg bone rotates out and in. And again, looking for, is the pelvis moving? And making it small enough, the pelvis isn't moving. Noticing if the foot is trying to make the movement happen. So that's really common. Let the foot relax, let it dangle. So we're not using our feet. Again, it's difficult as I look in the mirror or look in the camera and I'm leaning to one side, it shows you I'm leaning the other way. It's very weird. So I'm going to let that go, step down, and just take a moment. I often find after doing that, my one leg feels longer than the other. So see what you feel. And then we'll take it to the other side. So same thing, leg bone swings back and forth. Easy breath. So we're not trying to hold in the belly or the chest or the face. Leg bone comes back and forth. Nice and easy. And we'll take it out and in. And again, we're not going so far. We're just a couple of inches. And maybe even, so feel for the leg bone moving in the pelvis. And the same as you go into rotation. And even try and visualize that leg bone moving in the pelvis. And just feel what you feel here. And then you can step down. And again, just notice the difference between your legs. I'm going to give you a couple of other things that you can play with using this sort of stance, yes, where you're on the stair or your block. So the one is to play with the pelvis moving on the leg bone. So we think about the leg swinging here. Well, we're going to let the legs stay in the pelvis, and we're going to let the pelvis come forward. So we're moving into sort of a warrior three. And the leg stays in line with the body. Sometimes think about this as a teeter-totter. And the hips stay level, so we're not opening at the hip, right? I've got a hand on the back of my pelvis to play with that. And I'm also noticing if I'm poking my head here, the movement comes from the pelvis. Yeah, so we feel that leg swing. And then the leg stays set as we hinge. Let's try the other side. So swing the leg again if you like. And then the leg stays where it is. The pelvis, sometimes I even like to tip my pelvis with my hands. So the pelvis moves on the leg bone as opposed to the leg bone moving the pelvis, but you know, same muscles work. Or same muscles are involved, I should say. And we're finding that little warrior three. Check for if your toes are grippy, right? The supporting leg. And I'm going to give you one more fun thing related to the thing we talked about at the beginning with the hips being uneven. So as you step up onto your block or your stair, and then you can actually play with lifting and lowering that hip. So now we're actually not working the leg bone, but we're working between the pelvis and the rib cage as we hike that hip up and down. And you're like, well, but I thought we were talking about the leg bone and the pelvis, Catherine. Yeah, but sometimes the connections higher up can affect that. So I know for myself, sometimes side bends and twists can really be effective. And this is just kind of one more fun lift. Yeah. So again, you can see on this side, there's something, a little bit something funky going on that I want to lean to one side. So I'm lifting the hip up using these muscles here. And we'll let that come down. Yeah. So some simple movement in the hips, a little extra there thrown in. And then as you really tune in to those simple movements in the hip, and start to eliminate some of those other patterns, moving through the pelvis, gripping with the feet, gripping with the breath, those movements just become more efficient. And then as we move into those more complex postures, like our warrior two, where there's lots of different things going on in each hip, the movement just becomes a little bit easier. And then we want to bring that same awareness into these more complex movements as well. So have fun exploring the movement of your hips.